drop that ass, bitch. It's open micers in the house. Pop that pussy with that open micers logo in your mouth. Jason with his bald ass head. Jacob looking in bed. It's open micers, bitch. Heard what I said. Drop that ass, open micers in the house. Drop that ass, pop that pussy, open micers in the house. Open micers in the house, open micers is a mouse. Drop that ass, pop that pussy, open micers in the house. The mic is now open.
That's right. The mic is now open. My name is Jason Robbins.
I'm Jacob Craig. Jason's very embarrassed to have shown our guest what is objectively the best theme song in podcasting history. That's right. I did a 180. I did a heel turn on my opinion on the theme song. It is the best fucking theme song a podcast could ever have. That is our guest that you hear from the other end of the Zoom. We are actually joined by a very special guest here tonight. You know her from BBC's Live at the Apollo. You know her from Last Comic Standing. You know her from Little People, Big World. It is the one and only, the very funny Tanyalee Davis. How are you doing tonight?
Hello, you guys. Thank you for having me. I'm doing well. I just had my right shoulder replaced, so you guys are my first official activity since surgery. So it's good to be kind of back in the game.
And you're on pain pills too, so this should be interesting.
Which means I could shit myself at any given moment since I'm on laxatives because of the pain pills.
Yeah, that's something you mentioned before we started recording, and I thought, what a perfect podcast to almost shit your pants on, because the penultimate question that we usually ask comics at the end of the show, we'll talk about comedy, lead them on a little bit, and then the last question we just ask them when the last time they shit themselves was. So it's a funny little joke.
Yeah, count to 90 seconds ago? There we go.
Well, but if you shit yourself live on air,
could happen.
That's good content and make a great TikTok clip. And this isn't exactly Rogan that we're doing here. Like, this is kind of a perfect podcast to shit your pants on.
All right. I'll keep you posted.
Please do. Please give me live play-by-play updates on what is happening in your bowels. I'm very glad that you could join us here tonight. I'm glad that your surgery went well. So what happened with the surgery? What led to having to get your shoulder replaced?
Well, I mean, I have a form of dwarfism called diastrophic dysplasia. It's the same type as Matt Roloff from Little People, Big World. And one of our big things is we don't have any cartilage in our joints. So I was 3'8" at my tallest. I was 3'6". I'm currently 3'3", the Guinness Book of World Record holder for the shortest comedian in the world. And I'll probably keep holding that title at the rate that I'm going. I'll be just a head on an ass soon. So, I have never had a ball and socket in my shoulders or any joints. And, I use a mobility scooter to get around, and I use my arms to get myself up and down, and life in general. I'm right arm dominant. So I got to the point where it's excruciating. And I got to tell you, the shoulder replacement shit is a dream. Yeah, I can't believe how well I'm doing. Like, even 5 days after the surgery, I was like, I could be on stage right now. Like, that's how good I feel. I virtually have no pain. I banged myself a little bit bad last night, so I'm having pain today. But in the whole scheme of things, like, unbelievable. It's the other side effects, like the pain pills, which, people say, yay, but that gives you constipation, which is never fun. And then I got that under control, and then I ended up with Hermie the hemorrhoid. So now I'm dealing Herbie and friends apparently have turned up. So right now the shoulder is not, it's the pain in the ass. That's the problem. Right. So yeah, other than that, I'm in great spirits.
So with the shoulder, are you going to get the other shoulder done too? And maybe the knees, and you'll be like Bionic Woman?
Well, I didn't think I needed the left one done quite so bad, except for, I don't know whether it's the trauma or the positioning or what happened during my surgery, but for some reason, my right boob is now about 3 times bigger than it was before, and it's bruised and everything. So I'm thinking, well, now I got to get the left shoulder done because I get a breast augmentation at the same time. So it's kind of a twofer.
Yeah, maybe they had an extra breast implant hanging around. They're like, what are we gonna do with this? Let's just throw it in here for free.
I think they just punched me really hard in the tit because, oh, that's what it feels like. Yeah.
That's what I like to do to Jacob all the time. Just punch him in the tit.
Look, if you got them, then you
Better than motorboat it.
yeah, it's true. It's true. But so before the shoulder surgery, you know, kind of where were you at in the world, like as far as like you know, touring, performing comedy regularly, that kind of thing? Like, did the shoulder slow you down any? Like, and how do you kind of get around with touring and that kind of stuff?
Well, I've been a road comic for 34 and a half years and all over the world. And it's, since the lockdown and I came back to the States, because I've been touring internationally since 2004. I have a huge profile in the UK. And then the lockdown happened. And so my husband and I we couldn't live over there during the lockdown. I mean, you were only allowed out 1 hour a day for shopping and 1 hour for exercise. They were patrolling the streets,
Whoa.
and so it was hardcore lockdown. So my dad and his wife live in Central Florida, and they had a spare room. So they said, "You want to come stay with us?" So we went from a serious lockdown to Florida where COVID didn't exist. So that was like, wow. And I've since basically the last 4 years, I've almost been reinventing myself in a way, like many people and performers took to social media, when I got on the TikTok. And over the course of 3 years, I gained over 3 million followers
Wow.
on TikTok. I was going 2 to 6 hours a day on live. The thing is a lot of people don't know I'm a comedian on TikTok. They just think I'm cute or I'm funny. And because I do a whole array of content on my social media. I don't really post stand-up clips. So for me now going, still getting back on the road, the 3 million plus followers on TikTok and the hundreds of thousands on other platforms doesn't necessarily equate to ticket sales right now. But my act, I'm very proud of myself, and I'm sure we'll get more into this, but at the evolution of my career and as a performer, and when you've been in comedy 5 years, you think you're the shit, right? You're like, oh my god, how come I'm not getting this, how come? And then 10 years later you're like, oh, I'm so much better than I was back then, but why am I not getting, so as long as you're always progressing, I think that's important. And I done this kind of through social media and TikTok, talking to people. My husband's like, you just need to do that on stage, because I'm a natural storyteller. But it takes a lot of confidence to talk to people and they're not laughing, but they're really gripped and they're engaged. And so I've always been a confident performer, but now I can get up there for 90 minutes and just, I don't, my shows are never the same anymore. Like, I don't have a set list. I'll talk about what happened during the day or whatever, like just whatever's come up. And then, I've got kind of a skeleton type of a set. Certain points I definitely want to hit because I have a lot of educational stuff in my show. And so that over the last couple of years, that's what's been happening. And then I live in Sarasota, Florida now, and I got hooked up with a couple of really fantastic, comics that are, anywhere from just about a year in to Jeremy's about 7 years in. So I have three guys that are sort of and David's about three. David Westgate's my main tour support right now. He's about 3.5 years in. And one of the things I love is mentoring comedians. And, I'm a dinosaur. I've been around. I did the road when we didn't have cell phones. I had to wait for some dude to call me on the landline on the wall to set up. Okay, you're going to fly to this airport. I'm going to be in a red Toyota. I'm going to have a blue baseball cap on. And then I, as a woman, gets in a car with a couple of dudes that I've never met and travel around for 2 weeks, sharing hotel rooms and stuff like that. And, it was amazing. It's just so much fun. And that, I miss that being on the road. And so now with my boys, they've been so great, and to be able to help them. We have little powwows. I'm like, so how do you think you did? How do you think you did there? And what do you think you did wrong? Or how did you feel about that? And so, the last couple of months now we've been leading up, and I just got a tour manager now. And so we're doing a whole Texas run. I'm going up to the Pacific Northwest, Tacoma and Spokane. I'll be in Dallas, Fort Worth, Waco, San Antonio. So yeah, things are definitely this latter part of 2024 is where I feel like I'm really starting to hit my groove. And that's why I'm doing more podcasts now. I'm going to be doing Chris Jericho's podcast. I don't know if you know who Chris Jericho.
Oh, yeah.
Y2K or Y2J.
Yeah.
I went to high school with Chris. So
Really?
I was supposed to do his podcast tomorrow, but we were doing it next week. I'm going to his house. So, I just think the things are starting to hit for me right now. And, just getting me back in the groove because I've been out of the loop for so long and sort of, nobody in the comedy scene really knows. I mean, they know of me, but they like, whatever happened to her kind of shit. And it's like, I'm back, bitches. I'm back. I'm back.
Back with a vengeance, just like Hermie the Hemorrhoid. Back with a vengeance.
There we go. Oh, God, please no, enough.
But that's fantastic to hear that, a comic that's been doing it as long as you is taking people sort of under your wing and taking them on the road. I think, a lot of comics don't necessarily think like that once they get that past that part of their career where they're trying to get someone to take them on the road. And then they get to a point where, oh, well, I can bring my friends to feature and I can bring, whoever and essentially not give an opportunity to maybe a local or a younger person in comedy. So that is fantastic to hear someone like you doing that. And I think I'm personally surprised at how well traveled you've been in your comedy career because you're from Canada. You have television credits in both the UK and the US, tons of festivals, fringe festivals. How does that happen from somebody who's from Canada to sort of spreading your wings so much across the entire world?
Well, I think Canada generates a lot of really funny people. I mean, in history, you look at John Candy, William Shatner, and and all those guys. Because I think Canada's such a massive country, and it's so spread out. Like when you leave a city, you are driving for a very long time before you see any inhabitants, right? Not maybe so much now, but my boys now will drive maybe an hour and a half to do open mics. We'd have to drive 3-4 hours to, get paid $50, 8 hours to make $100, and so you have to be in it to win it. And you have to have that determination and that drive to do what you want to do when you're starting off in Canada. And then because I started in 1990. So 1996, 97 is when I moved out to Western Canada, met my then best friend, and she wanted to be a screenwriter. And we thought, listen, it's the two of us. Let's move to Los Angeles. You want to be a screenwriter, comedian? I want to be a stand-up. Let's, we'll support each other and we'll get down there. And then, we hung out at the Laugh Factory Tuesdays, 10 a.m. People start lining up to sign up at 6 p.m., in the hot sun of Los Angeles. And it'd be infighting and, we've got this list and we've got this list. But I met some amazing people that I'm still friends with, that we're all lining up, at the Laugh Factory and then the Comedy Store. I rose up really quickly, actually, when I got to LA because I was so unique and I was polished, for being in for 6 years. So I got passed at the Comedy Store like within a couple of months. Mitzi had heard about me. I'd done some shows in the Belly Room, and then she asked to see me, and I got passed the same day as Ralphie May. Ralphie and I were passed the same day, and we both have our pictures hanging. I think he's on top of me. Woo! It's the only time Ralphie May has ever been on top of me. And also have my name on the wall. So that, that's a huge, for any comedian. And so, yeah, the LA scene. And I tried the LA scene, but I don't like the LA mentality. I don't like the egos and stuff like that. Plus, it was so expensive to live in LA. So we ended up moving to Vegas. And it was a lot cheaper. And that's when I got invited to my first Well, no, I got an agent contacted me and said, listen, there's a producer that's putting a show together for the Edinburgh Fringe Festival in Scotland, which is, the biggest festival in the world, encompassing a whole bunch of stuff, a comedy festival. And I had heard about it through some women that I had met through a comedy board. Judy Marmel Brown, her husband, Steve Marmel, they used to be part of a thing called ACS, alt.comedy.standup. And it was basically a comedy forum, and we all met on there. And they decided, because Judy was in with the improv, that any comics from anywhere around the world that were on our ACS board wanted to come to Los Angeles. We were going to create our own little mini festival, and Judy was going to give Monday, Tuesday, Wednesdays. Anybody that flew in would get at least a 5-minute spot at the Improv in Hollywood. So we had people from Scotland, and I met these two women from Australia. They had a comedy duo called Miss Itchy. And so we ended up doing that 3 years in a row. So through Miss Itchy, the Australian girls, is how I ended up in Australia doing the Melbourne Comedy Festival initially. I had heard that they had done the Edinburgh Fringe Festival. So I had kind of had an idea of the magnitude of this festival, and that it would be an amazing opportunity if I could get to be part of it. So the producer picked me and Louis Ramey as the sort of the headliners. And then there was like 10 other comedians. And you only get an hour or 50 hour long slot in Edinburgh. And that was the year my sister was getting married. So I ended up showing up a couple of days later than from when we first started. And by the time I got there had been a mutiny amongst the comedians, because they had realized that not everybody was going to be on the same show, or like every day was going to be on a show. They'd have to take some days off. Otherwise, everybody was only going to get literally 3 minutes. Well, when they realized that the biggest thing is you want to be reviewed when you're at the festival. So what if you're not on the show when the reviewer comes in, right? And so by the time I got there, I was supposed to get like a 15-minute spot, and then, everybody was going to be like maybe 4 acts or whatever performing. No, now it was 13 comedians on getting, 4 minutes each. But I was the only one that got picked up by a manager in the UK, and I started touring there in 2004. And that's how it broke me into that scene. And, through the UK, there's a lot of opportunities, in Europe and stuff like that. And I did a military tour with UMCS, Marines, in Japan. Did 7 bases in 10 days. So yeah, I feel very fortunate to have been able to travel all over and do comedy in Abu Dhabi and Dubai. Like, how cool! Like, just being as a woman going to these places, But they put on shows to basically expats and people that speak English, or the Arabs that speak English. So you don't have to censor yourself too much in the Middle East shows that I've done. But yeah, okay. I'm very fortunate.
So you're not doing comedy for shakes or like anything like that? Because I'm thinking to myself, like, they've never seen anybody that looks like you in their country.
Right. Oh, I had a good time with one of the dudes who was all shaked up, as I called it, and he had a woman with big old tits and the all the jewels and stuff like that. And I kept telling him that I could be, come on, lavish me with some stuff, baby. But I was like, I don't know if I can get past the smell. But
That's fair. That's fair. Listen, that's fair.
Don't go walking through Abu Dhabi airport. Oh God. Ooh, yeah, just. Ooh. Yeah.
That's crazy, though, that comedy has literally taken you to every corner of the earth. That's amazing.
And that's why it's funny when, like, because I'm on TikTok all the time, and I have all these young kids going, "You're not funny," and I've never even heard of you, and I'm like, that's okay. You don't think that's fine. I've done incredible things with my life and my career. I don't need you to like me, or I don't care. This is why I'm so good at social media, because my give a fuck button's broken. I'm an old lady now. I don't need you to validate me. I've been doing this my entire life. So, yes, I have the receipts, as the kids say now, to prove, that I didn't sleep my way to the top. I worked hard, and I deserve everything that I've received so far. So,
Right. Absolutely. Yeah, and do you think that's sort of just like a maturity in your career now? Because as you said, I mean, you've literally been doing comedy like not only longer than I've been alive, but longer than my older brother has been alive. So, I mean, when you've been doing comedy that long, is that sort of just kind of your maturity to be like, it doesn't matter what people say on TikTok. I know I was passed at the Comedy Store. I know that I've done all this stuff.
Yeah, well, yes, maturity in comedy and just maturity in general. Like, I mean, as you approach your 40s and then 40s to 50s, you really start to do a lot of self-reflection, because at your age, you're like, I got plenty of time in life. A lot of people, especially nowadays, don't live in the moment. And then you get to your late 40s and you're like, holy shit, where did the time go? And it's like, my white hair and got a neck pussy going on. What's happening? Shit's breaking down, and you want, that's why old people sit on the porch and watch the world go by, because you want it to slow down. Right. And so now with my career, because like I said, I'm all about energy, and I've had a really rough couple of years that I know that I'm on an upswing, and I am going to be living in the moment, because I think that's important, really just cherishing the experiences that come at you and the opportunities, and really going, okay, soak it in and enjoy it. And I'm, like I said, maturity wise, if I was to get like, Little People, Big World, like a series like that, I probably would have imploded like they did. That ruined their relationships, and it caused a whole bunch of chaos. Those reality shows are so invasive. And if you're not solid in your foundation and who you are as a person, entertainment, social media, can tear you to shreds if you let it. But I really feel like I'm at a point with my husband's my rock, and just who I am as a person. I'm up for any challenge now, and I can look at it going, no, I got this, and I'm not going to put up with any more bullshit. I don't have time. Don't have time for the bullshit. Let's just make some great content, whatever it may be.
See, that's what I was going to ask you, is like, when exactly does the not give a shit button hit? Because I'm 47 and I still have the mentality of a 12-year-old who is a people pleaser. So if one person tells me I suck, I will spiral out for like 3 weeks.
And I tell him once a week on this podcast, every week, I'm like, dude, you suck, quit comedy. He hasn't spiraled yet. I'm waiting for the spiral.
He's there. So there you haven't spiraled yet. So he's toughening you up. He's toughening you up. Sometimes you need somebody just constantly needling you just to give you a thicker skin. But it literally is up to you. And I say this online all the time. Like, you can't control what other people say. You can only control how you react. It doesn't matter what strangers or other people think of you. As a comedian, there's so many different styles of comedy, right? People don't like ventriloquists. People don't like prop acts. People don't like, observational comedy. So just stick with what you want to do, and then your audience will find you. And you can't expect everybody to like you. That's just an unrealistic expectation. And the minute you take that helmet off of feeling like you need to people please, it's so liberating. And you're like, yeah, whatever. I don't give a fuck anymore. And it's wonderful.
See, I think my audience is dead. That's why they haven't found me yet.
Yeah, you were born 10 years too late, Jason.
Yeah, I guess.
Or 10 years too early. I don't know how years work. I'm from Mississippi.
Oh, God.
I don't know math. Yeah, you were talking about the COVID shutdown earlier and how it just didn't happen in Florida. That was very much our reality, because I think it was like maybe March 2020. We were already back open, open for business.
Yeah. Yeah, well, I mean, and that's the way it should have been. I mean, I think, people's mental health. It was good to finally get back, on stage. Doing comedy via Zoom is the worst experience ever.
I was just going to ask if you did any.
Horrible for anybody in every regard. It just sucks the authenticity out of the performance aspect. And I love engaging with people. I like looking into people's eyes. I like seeing them in the moment, and instead you see somebody pop it up and they're, scratching their balls and they're eating popcorn and they're, feeding their dog. You're like, oh, I'm over here.
That's what I'm doing right now.
Because I was gonna ask if you did any Zoom shows during the pandemic, because me and Jacob did a few, and it was one of the most horrible experiences I ever had to do, and I hope I never have to do that again.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, unless it's corporate and they're going to be paying me a crap ton of money, then yeah, that's it. I'd rather you please fly me out. I'd rather be in your faces. Yeah, this is too. Yeah, I don't like it.
Yeah, for the most part, I'm not going to say that I'm, immune to criticism or whatever, in terms of like taking stuff hard. But when I have to read my own heckles, that's when I fucking lose it. Don't make me read the heckle. Like I have stopped mid-set and I'm like, hey, what did that fucking person with their camera off that's just a white name on the screen say?
Oh no. See, I now if I do it, I make it so I can't see anybody. I go, okay, I have to look into the camera. There's the camera. All right, just focus on that point. Don't worry about who or what's on this part. Or I'll put myself up there, because I don't need that distraction. Especially I got menopause brain now and stuff. So if I'm I'm engaged in a thought and then something distracts me and all of a sudden like, oh, squirrel, and then I'm like, oh shit, what was I talking about again? So I just have to stay laser focused when it comes to these now. The Zoom comedy shows.
One of the last Zoom shows I ever did, it was actually based in the UK. And I was like, oh, I'm so fortunate to, be sitting in a room in Mississippi performing for a UK audience. And this guy had like built up like an actual audience that watched, this Zoom show over in the UK. I was like, fucking awesome. I get to like actually perform for British people that would never see my comedy or whatever. And I was living in the moment. I was doing my set. I thought I was fucking killing. I was like, yeah, I'm hitting everything I want to hit. And there's an interview portion like after the set or whatever. And I end my set. And I start looking at the comments like during the interview section, and my heart just drops because everyone's like, "Get this guy off the stage, give him the light early, cut his time. This guy's foul," like all kinds of stuff.
What was the name of the podcast?
It was Hen Nights or something like that. HENN Nights. I don't know. It's not around anymore.
Well, if British people don't like you, they are a tough audience. Like that's the one thing I love about British audiences, because they will call bullshit. And if you're people like, get off the stage, you fucking cunt. Not to me, but like to people that have been on, and I'm like, oh, and you got to get up there. And like, the thing is you can't let them see you sweat. They British audiences will test you, and like Liverpool, Glasgow, those cities, they really love audience engagement. And I mean, I don't do a lot of crowd work stuff, but they will toss stuff at you just to see if you've got the balls enough to respond. And back in the day, I could give it just as I could take, kind of thing. And they were like, whoa, go sister. So, and typically especially with American comedians, as soon as they find out you're from the US, they'll just be like, prove it, prove that you're funny and you're not an arrogant asshole. So that's, you gotta be really pretty solid. Otherwise, they'll tear you to shreds. They have a comedy club in London that you perform behind glass because they'll throw shit at you.
Oh my gosh. We need that here.
The Bearcat. Yeah.
We need a few of those. Yeah, but I handled it horribly too, because as soon as they started the interview or whatever, I instantly turned. I was like, "Yeah, fuck you guys. I have the First Amendment, freedom, motherfuckers!" Like all kinds of dumb shit. I was like, I did not handle it well at all. I embarrassed myself. I embarrassed myself. I cried that night. I'll admit it. I cried a little bit.
Yeah, well, that's sometimes you just got to admit defeat, and then that's when they go, okay, it's like, okay, that I sucked balls, everybody, and they're like, yeah, you did, and then you can bond on that level, knowing how bad you've done. Yes, it happens.
Right, for sure. I want to get into our open micers questions a little bit. We've got roughly 30 minutes left of the show here. I want to get into your start from the very beginning. Your first ever time doing comedy. You mentioned that you started in 1990. So, what was that first open mic like? And where in the world were you at this point?
So I grew up in Winnipeg, Manitoba, Canada. And my parents, when I graduated from high school, really wanted me to go to university so that I could, get a real job to support myself. But I'm like, but I want to be an actress. No, you're going to go to university and get a real job. So I was like, fine, I'll study theater. Ha ha. Well, when you go to university to study theater, you actually have to study theater in a book. And I was like, damn it. So I quit after the first year and I went backpacking to Australia and stuff. And then when I came back, all my friends were at uni and I was bored. So I was like, okay, I'll go back on my terms. That's when I got my sociology degree. But at the same time, I started doing children's theater. And I got the lead in the first production. I was Perry the Penguin. And I started dating a guy in the production. He played the villain, and apparently he had a thing for penguins. And boom. So he said to me, I'm going to a comedy club to do an open mic. Do you want to come check me out? I was like, what's an open mic? What's a comedy club? I didn't even know what stand-up comedy was. I was 19 at the time. I had no idea what stand-up comedy was. I knew I liked to laugh. I grew up watching British comedies. I grew up watching Laurel and Hardy and Lucille Ball, Carol Burnett, physical comedians. Robin Williams, huge, loved him, but didn't know what stand-up was. So this guy took me to a comedy club, and then I just saw people getting up on stage, and I was like, well, they're just getting up and performing, right? And then my guy got up there, and he was shit. And I knew what he was doing wrong. For some reason, instinctively, he was running the light. His timing was off. And he was really arrogant about certain things. And I was like, no, that just doesn't make sense. He said, you think you could do better? And I was like, yeah, actually. So he was like, all right, you're going up January 23rd, 1990. So here's what happened. So the comedy club called my house on the landline. My mom answers the phone. And she's like, what's this about a comedy club? I'm like, never mind. So they said, do you need any special arrangements for stage? And I said, well, put a chair. Back in the day, when I was taller and more agile, like I would get up onto a chair, stand on the chair, lean against the back of the chair. That way I could take pressure off my back. So I said, just a chair will be fine. So I show up and the manager comes over, obviously recognized me, and we're chatting. And then she says to me, the headliner's really pissed off you're here. And I'm like, what? The headliner? Like, I don't even know who the headliner is. How the hell would he know who I am? Because I'm, this is my second time in the building. And then I was thinking to myself, why are you telling me this? Because surely you got to know this is my first time on stage and I'm shitting myself. I felt like, I don't know what's happening, but why are you trying to sabotage me? And I talk about this on stage, this exact story, because this is how I have been my entire life. There's been aspects where I can see a pivotal moment where something clicked in my brain, and there was two choices there. I almost gave up. I almost collapsed and was like, I'm out of here. I don't know what's going on, and I didn't want to be confronted by any negativity, and I could have left. But something clicked in my brain, and I was like, oh, no, you not. I will show you, right? So it lit a fire under my ass. And whatever energy and pent up emotion I had, I went up on there 5 minutes. Seems like an eternity, obviously. And I just gave it all I got. And thank you, good night. And they clapped, they cheered. I didn't bomb. It was great. And I was so proud of myself. And I went back to the back of the room and I was sitting there kind of like, yeah, watching the other comedians going on stage. And then they introduced the headliner. Then it all made sense. The headliner's name was Kerry Tomlich. He was 5'2" tall. His entire act was about being short. When you got to follow a midget, your short jokes are shit. So we had started off at the same place and we moved from city to city together across Canada. And he sabotaged me for years. I couldn't work at a lot of the comedy clubs that he was in. And of course, it's a boys' club. So, part of it was really difficult. And then he died. I had nothing to do with it. Nothing, swear. I had nothing to do with it. But short-lived. So anyway, yeah. So that was my first time. And now I would probably shake his hand and go, thank you for being such a fucking asshole. Because I wouldn't have gone up with there with such energy and, fight. I felt like I was fighting for my approval, for my spot to be there. And there we go, 34 and a half years later, baby.
So how many, how long was it before you had your first real bomb?
The week after.
Oh.
So the next week they asked me to come back, or 2 weeks later. And because my mom had got wind that I was attempting to do comedy, and my mom, her husband.
Uh-oh. We'll see if Zoom is buffering.
Yeah, she mentioned that there were some serious
I
thunderstorms happening.
Yeah.
Anybody didn't know.
Yeah. Well, hopefully it'll clear up here in a second. But yeah, she had mentioned before we started the show that there was some bad thunderstorms going on where she was. So if she drops out, that's why.
Yeah, it looks like we might have lost her altogether there.
Yeah, she's a bit frozen.
A bit frozen. Let's see.
Yeah, we can vamp for a minute and see if it clears up, and hopefully she comes back. I'll shoot her a message in the chat. Should I pause for a minute or?
No, I reckon we can keep going. Yeah, shoot her a message in the chat. I'm assuming she can't hear us, but if she can, she should.
Are we back?
Oh, there she is.
We're back.
There she is.
Oh, we lost you guys.
Yeah.
Sorry about that. I don't know. Was it me? Because our internet connection can be pretty fruity. But
yeah,
like I said, we had the big storm.
Yeah, I think
Sorry.
your internet took a dump.
All of a sudden, I heard somebody talking over me, and I was like, "What is happening?" And neither of you were moving, and I was like, "What's going on?" So, did I get through the story, or what happened?
No, we didn't hear any of the story.
Right where you just started talking about. It was after the second week when you had your first big bomb.
Okay. Yeah. So the second they invited me back, and like I said, I didn't want anybody to know that I was doing comedy, but my mom and her husband and my sister were moving out of the province. So my mom was like, "Oh, surprise!" Brought the neighbors and my cousins, so they all show up, and I did my opening line.
Oh no, she froze again right at.
We lost her at the opening line.
No!
We're gonna get the story one line at a time.
Oh no!
Laugh.
Talk about a cliffhanger. We can hear you if you can hear us.
We probably haven't caught up.
Yeah,
because she mentioned this happened last time. We thought we'd be an assholes talking over her.
Oh man, it clipped out like right at the cliffhanger.
All right. Do you want me to redo it or?
We lost you right after you said that you said your opening line.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So, do you want me to do the opening line again?
Yeah, please.
just for editing purposes. Yeah. So I'm doing my opening line, which was my first opening line was, "Hey, do you guys know there was a midget here?" Yeah. I walked in and they were like, "Hey, look, there's a midget. Don't look now. There's a midget." And I was like, "Where?" And that's when I heard somebody familiar laugh, and it threw me off. And then that was it. I just was like, "Rah, rah, rah, abort the mission." And I just had pretty much a meltdown. I couldn't remember the rest of my set. So they were like, "Well, at least you tried." That was it. They had like, "Well, you gave it a go. Good for you. Now get back to school." Well, 3 months later, I was getting paid to do comedy in the city that they moved to. So,
yeah, that's what Jacob tells me every time we go to the open mic. He's like, "Well, at least you tried."
Yeah, Jason's bad at comedy. It's not a joke anymore. He should really quit. He should really just stop doing this to everybody and himself. It's kind of sad at this point.
Yeah.
So did your family ever come around to the prospect of you doing comedy, or was there always kind of like a combatants there?
No, well, so I have two families in the sense. My parents got divorced when I was really young. So I lived with my mom and my stepfather, and my dad's, been in my life, but just, not, I have more of a relationship with my father now because he lives here in Florida. My my relationship with both my parents is very different. My mom's very up her own ass, and she's, why do you have to say foul things? Why? It's not very ladylike. You're not, and why do you say bad words? If you want to get on television, like Roseanne Barr, Bob Saget, they're clean comedians. And I'm like, have you actually heard their stand-up, Mom? No, they're clean because they're on television. She didn't get that concept. So she was always kind of like, unless one of her bridge friends or somebody in her neighborhood was like, I saw your daughter on television. And she's like, that's my girl. Whereas my dad, my relationship with my father from the get-go, my dad, I think I get my sense of humor from my paternal side anyway. And my dad and his wife have always been just, I can be myself around them anyway. So they've been supportive from the get-go and, very proud of me. I'm sure my mother's proud of me in her own narcissistic way.
Yeah, forgive me if I'm jumping ahead a little bit, but, you mentioned, doing the clean comedy just for TV. At what point do you start thinking about that? Like thinking about, oh, well, I need to craft a clean set in case I'm on TV, or, instead of, having to cut out the foul things and not necessarily be the full version of yourself.
Well, I never went in with intentions of wanting, thinking I need to be a clean comedian, or that's the thing. Just do what you want to do, and if you get opportunities, you have to learn to adjust. You get opportunities at corporate events. You get opportunities at children's or a festival where you've got to watch a language. You have to be able to adjust. Putting yourself as a comedian in an uncomfortable situation is the best way to grow as a comedian, is putting yourself out of your comfort zone and pushing yourself. And one of the reasons why Jeremy White, who is one of my support acts, is on my radar is because he had the balls enough. I was working my first time ever doing Snappers Comedy Club in Florida, and he showed up. We had met each other at the Tampa Side Splitters, and he had done a 10-minute set, and I thought he was pretty good. And I said something to him afterwards. I didn't tell him I was a comedian. I just said, hey, good job. And, I thought he was a lot better than I thought he was going to be. And then I guess he went home and Googled me and was like, oh, my God, I can't believe it. Anyway, so he showed up at the club and he said to me, can I do a guest spot? And I said, well, this is my first time at this comedy club. I've only got the one night. I'll ask the owner. Well, the owner comes and says, okay, you're going to get 5 minutes. I don't want any swearing. I don't want this. I don't want that. And the blood drained from Jeremy's face, because well, I mean, if you fuck this up, you can fuck up both of us, but I'm going to give you the opportunity and this is going to show what you can do. And you know what? He did a great job. He completely went out, smoked whatever, and came back and zoomed in, and he did really well. And he garnished a lot of respect from me because of that. And I knew that he was shitting himself. But he did a great, and even the owner was like, no, that was good. And I think he gets regular spots there now. And I can't even get back in. So it's like, it's just whatever, you got to roll with the punches and be able to, grab those opportunities and run with it, or fall on your face and move on.
Yeah. Well, one thing I did want to ask you about, since you're from Canada and everything, what do you think it is about Canada that produces such insanely funny, talented people?
So yeah, we have to drive like ridiculous hours. I went to gigs where we were so snowed in we had to get snowmobiles, and so we were doing this bar up in the middle of British Columbia, like way the hell, or Alberta, way up north. And I was like, we are so snowed in. How are we going to have a show? The bar was packed because everybody just came in on snowmobiles. Then the power went out. I'm on stage, standing on a chair, holding a stripper pole, and I'm performing, and the power goes out. Well, we're still going to have a comedy show because everybody's got a flashlight. So all of a sudden, everybody in the audience whips out flashlights. We're doing this comedy show because we drove 12 hours to get up here, right? And so I think when you've got a lot of adversity, the Canadian comics, like I said, you have to I'm sure things are a lot different now because there's a lot more comedy and a lot more cities and a lot more people. But you had to have honed your craft and wanted it badly enough, and I think that's why there's a lot of very good comedians, great comedians that come from Canada. It's just I think tough climate, thick skin, and the ability to laugh at yourself. I think Canadians have always, we take the piss out of each other and stuff like that, and not take life so seriously.
Yeah, this might be a tangent that we don't want to go off on, but is there a misconception about Canadians always being nice? I mean, are there Canadian hecklers? Are there Canadian assholes in comedy? I mean, everyone there can't be nice.
No, not at all. That definitely is maybe in the past, because Canadians are one of our things. Oh, sorry, you'll bump into me and I'll say sorry. That's just sorry, we don't never want conflict. Canada's just, we're neutral. No, don't bug us. We're fine. We're here. We're just be happy. We're here. Would you give us a beer and some fur pelts and we're happy. Just now it's a whole different ballgame. I mean, Canada's gone to hell in a handbasket, first of all. And what was I going to say about the other thing? Menopause. Squirrel. I'll get back to it.
Don't worry, it happens to the best of us. That's good reassurance, though, that because I have a theory that comedy's pretty much the same everywhere. Like, obviously people have different forms of comedy that they like and everything, but I'm like, there's gotta be Canadian hecklers still.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, for sure. And they're kind of like British people. I mean, if they don't like you, they'll let you know. I mean, it's not as if, see, where I grew up in the 70s and 80s, Canada was very milquetoast, very white across. We didn't have a lot of racism because, like when I moved to LA, I'd never seen so many Black people, so many Hispanic people, right? And I had lived in 3 major cities across Canada, but there wasn't a lot of ethnic diversity. And so moving to LA, when all the comments were like, white people do this, Black people do this, white people do this. And as a Canadian, who I moved down with my best friend, we were both like, well, no wonder there seems to be a lot of racism in America because they keep talking about everything that divides them. We didn't do that in Canada. It was like, oh shit, man, we gotta, you gotta love your neighbor because you gotta know the people that are around you because they're the ones that are gonna bury you or drag your ass out of a snowbank or feed you if you're stuck in a snowbank for 2 weeks without power and stuff like that. So and that's even in the cities. People knew you used to know your neighbors. And just we had it was that neighborhood Canadian friendly feel, and I don't get that as much now when I go up there. It's a whole different term. Life's a lot different. I'm glad I grew up there when I did. No.
Yeah, we're rubbing off on Canada here in America. Like you guys are getting too much like us.
Yeah, exactly. You're toughening us up.
Yeah, I was gonna say. I mean, I think that's everywhere now. I don't think anyone has a sense of neighborhood anymore. I don't know the names of the people that live next to me in my apartment complex. Yeah. I couldn't tell you any. I've never even laid eyes on them. I don't think there is anyone that lives there.
Same here. I'm pretty sure my neighbor is a serial killer. I have evidence that he might be a serial killer, but when I see him, I'll be nice to him because I don't want to die, but I'm not going to be friendly and try to get to know the guy. He's loud.
Hopefully he's not, hopefully you're not his type.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. That's the difference between America and Canada. In Canada, you'd be nice to your neighbor because you're like, oh, this guy might pull me out of a snowbank one day. And in America, you're like, I'm going to be nice to this guy so that he's not a psycho and kills me in my sleep.
There you go. That sums it up right there.
Well, we should probably start wrapping this thing up now, Jacob.
Sounds good. Tanyalee, last question. You already know what it is. I mean, we got to talk about you shitting your pants. When was the last time you shit your pants, or just like a good shitting your pants story?
Okay, well, I have a famous shit story. like a famous one. You could Google and watch it, or I could tell you here. But because I'm on pain meds because of my surgery, literally, we were starting this at 1/2 past the hour, and at about 22 minutes past the hour, my butt decided to leak, and I was already off my scooter, so I had to like try to clench and keep I turned into a Mr. Whippy machine just before we started this. So as far as the last time was a couple of minutes before we started recording this. My famous shit story happened in Spokane, Washington, about 30 years ago now, and I was headlining. My opening act was on stage, and I was eating a BLT and a Diet Coke, and my stomach started to rumble, and I was like, oh, and then it started bubbling, and I was like, oh, and I'd never been to this club. I was like, where are the restrooms? And like, you got to go out the door, down the foyer towards the sports bar, and the restrooms are off to the left. And I'm booking it. I didn't have my scooter, and I was running down the hallway, and the owner's girlfriend like, Tanyalee, want to introduce you to my parents? I'm like, not now. So I go into the restroom. There's 3 stalls, and they're all taken. So now I'm crouched down. I'm labor breathing. I got sweat beads rolling down my face. I'm like, I gotta go number 3. Code brown, code brown. Luckily, the woman in the middle stall comes out, kind of a heavy-set woman with a red sequin top. She sees me crouched down, looking at me. I'm like, hey. So I get into the stall. I close the door. I'm doing a bit of a dance. I pulled my pants down, but my dilemma is, how do I get on the toilet seat? Back in the day, obviously little people have systems. I was a little taller, so I could back my ass up, and I would put one cheek up onto the seat and sort of throw myself up onto the seat. Well, you can't do that when you're clenching your ass as tight as possible. So I was like, oh my God, I got to think of options, right? So I was like, here's what I'll do. I'll go head first, and I'll grab the bowl, and I'll flip myself around, right? So I was like, okay, wait for the cramp to pass. I found a moment. I went and I thrusted myself forward, and that's when.
Oh no! No,
I need to know.
I need to know. Stupid Zoom. Damn you, Zoom. We're just getting to the climax. Oh man.
Climaxing, and then she stopped. Title of my sex tape.
Yeah.
Oh, there she is. She's back. Yeah, you're back now.
We're back. We lost you at the point where
back?
you lunged forward, and then that's when something.
Oh, did she? Stupid Zoom. Come on, man.
I think that might have been you, Jason.
Oh,
she's gone. She's gone forever. You'll never know the end of that story. She said that you could just.
Oh, there she is. There she is.
Back.
Shit the bed on the podcast, boys. You're shitting the bed on the podcast. You're in the middle of all my stories.
So we got to the part right where you lunged onto the toilet.
I went head first, and that's when my ass exploded. It shot out right to the door. It hit the door and the sides of the stall, and it just started dripping. So, of course, everything was in slow motion until the screams of the 2 women on either side of me and the women by the sink saw the shit dripping, that they were like, ah! So they ran out. I'm trying to wipe the stall down and everything. And then I realized, oh my God, I'm in here by myself. What if somebody walks in here? Nobody can see this shit. So I'm butt naked from the waist down. I'm holding the door closed. I'm like, what am I going to do? I need some help. And I was like, the owner's girlfriend, Christine, maybe she's still out in the hallway. So I open the door. I'm like, Christine, I need help. So she comes to the door. Of course, I have to explain I had a bit of an accident, but of course I'm a comedian, so she thinks I'm making it up. So she walks in and sees the shit storm and is like, right, starts gagging, and then she takes off. So,
oh no, not again. Oh man.
Oh man, Zoom's fucking us on this one, man.
Oh, this is such a good story too. Why is Zoom doing us like this?
Take a screenshot of that and use it for the thumbnail on YouTube.
We might have to just go ahead and wrap this thing up here in a second. We'll see if she pops back in. This might be too much for me to have to try to clean up while editing. I might just let it fly.
So basically, I ended up having to go back on stage after I had this complete incident. And when I got my introduction on stage, the 3 women that were in the restroom were the ones sitting in the front row. So I had to perform in front of these women and the entire crowd. And then it turns out when I got back to my hotel room that the entire top of my head was caked in shit. Because when I was wiping down the stall, I forgot about my T-Rex arms. So my head, of course, was rubbing. I had my hair in a ponytail. So my hair was caked in shit. So I was a total shithead. So, yeah.
Oh my!
You can look at the full story there online, but yeah, it was horrific.
Even though,
I think you hold.
Even though Zoom has not been kind to us for this episode, that is honestly the best story we've had on this podcast.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I think you hold 2 records. You hold the record for shitting your pants the closest to the podcast episode, and you hold the record for having the most brutal shitting your pants story, because you didn't shit your pants, you shit your hair, and that's something that no one else can say.
I shit everywhere. Yeah, I don't do things half-assed, apparently. Yeah, and that's just one of many. They have the vagina monologues, right? Where they have the tour show where women talk about their hoo-haws. I want to do a tour show where people talk about their shit stories, and it's called the shit logs.
Well, you got to book me on that, because boy, do I have like 30 minutes on shit in my pants.
Exactly. Everybody's got a shit story.
Oh, and she went down again. So let's. Oh, there. I think she's back.
She's back already. Yeah. She's back already. She's coming back.
Well, let's go ahead and
let's fucking end this.
Let's wrap this thing up real quick while we got Zoom. Thank you so much for being here, Tanyalee. Let's do those tour dates, Jacob.
Yeah, so we got September 14th at the American Legion Post 75 in Crestview, Florida. September
14th and 15th.
Yes, 14th and 15th. September 26th at Hyenas Comedy Club in Dallas, Texas, and September 27th also at Hyenas Comedy Club, and September 28th at Artisan Distillery and Craft Beer in San Antonio, Texas. And we have September 29th at Bear Arms Brewing. How accurate in Waco, Texas. Those are all the dates that you can see Tanyalee Davis coming near us. So yeah, the 14th, 15th, 26th, 27th, 28th, and 29th. Any of those, go check her out. Make sure those shows fucking sell out, because my gosh, is Tanyalee Davis a living legend in the comedy game, and I think that that people need to realize that. So thank you so much for being here with us tonight. So sorry the Zoom didn't stay intact for any of us, but it was fantastic chatting with you. Thank you for being here.
I appreciate it, guys. Thank you for your patience. And check out TanyaLeeDavis.com for my tour schedule.
Fantastic. Yes. And if you want to email us at openmicerspodcast@gmail.com. We're at openmicers.com. And of course, Linktr.com/openmicerspodcast takes you everywhere you need to go. All the socials, all the ways to give us money, all that good stuff. And of course, don't forget to go to brezcoffeeco.com. Use the code OMPodcast at checkout for 10% off of your order. We love all of you, and we'll see you all right here next week.